It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Good morning. Welcome in. It is Sports by the Book, a Thursday edition. We're only a half hour today, but we're going to pack quite the punch here on a Thursday. Alex White is here as always, and joining us on the far side of the desk. You know, it's quite the accomplishment the week of Bet Bash to be up early and not only here for a 9 a.m. show, Captain Jack Andrews with us right now, unabated, of course, but to be here 20 minutes early is very impressive, Jack.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Oh,
all for you.
You also made the trek to the Del Mar, which, look, if you're in this building,
yes,
you should make the trek to the Del Mar. So it's great to have you. You had just to give you and Unabated a shout out. Great event last night.
Yes.
At Hennessy's. All of us were there. It was a great event. It was great to see everybody.
We had Jimmy there.
Yes.
We had Jimmy Vaccaro somewhere other than the South Point. And it was great to see him and Vinny and Chrissy. It was a good time. We really enjoyed it.
It was very funny because you guys did Unabated trivia last night.
Ooh.
And the first question was the Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson closing line, which, of course, Jimmy, famously, the one who in that 30 for 30, the Mirage was where all the big bets on Tyson came through, and didn't matter. Buster Douglas 42-1. People didn't bet Buster Douglas that night.
No, he said that nobody bet 42-1. That was the closing line. Nobody bet it. Wow.
That trivia was something else. How did you guys come up with all those questions?
Oh, that's just me trying to make a puzzle that nobody can solve. So
You did a good job of
It
it.
was very, yeah.
The winning score had 8 out of 11, which I thought was very impressive because that was some tough questions.
Well, that was the team with Anthony Curtis, who, of course, is a Vegas staple as well. The one question last night that we got wrong, that I was pretty aggravated, was the I-80 question with how many states, if you drive from New Jersey to San Francisco, how many states you get through. Totally messed up that Wyoming's legal. Totally messed it up. We got everything else right. Should have just made the mistake of, it goes through Colorado, even though it doesn't.
It doesn't go through Colorado. It goes through Nebraska, which has legal sports betting, but they don't have mobile betting.
Right.
So as a result, you couldn't make a bet because the question was you can never leave the highway.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, so that's even more
Very
tricky
good.
than we realized at the time. See, a puzzle that people can't solve. Pretty good at that. So let's go for a puzzle that we're all trying to solve on a weekly basis. And of course, look, Jack, it's the NFL preseason begins today. But before we get to what you would do with the preseason, just for people that may be joining us for the first time, see you on social media, see Unabated on social media, and they're saying, hey, you know what? We want to bet on the NFL. We want to bet on college football this fall. What are some few things that you would say to a first-time bettor looking to get into this racket?
Football every year it's the best of times and it's the worst of times. So on the negative, football is a very hard sport to beat. There's so many people interested in American football, both college and the pros, and you're up against the market. You're up against the sports betting market, and there's sharper guys than you. So don't look at the NFL board and say, "Oh, I know that. I know this. I can beat this." What I would tell people that are new to sports betting is the thing that the NFL gives us is the most breadth of market, meaning there are props, there are lines. You could talk to Chris Andrews. He'll put out props for NFL that he doesn't put out for any other sport. There's different ways to bet the NFL. So go deep into the app on your phone. Go deep into the sheets that they still print out here at the South Point, and you'll find some prop bets and you'll find some derivatives that, maybe you can solve that logic puzzle that they've created that hopefully no one's going to solve. Maybe you can find something on the board that you go, oh, you know what? I don't know so much about this game, but I know that tight end. I know he looked like he was a little bit hobbled last week. I think that yardage number is too high on a tight end, and I'm going to take the under. That sort of thing that's down the board, that's probably more enticing in the NFL than any other sport.
Can you talk about Unabated a little bit and what features it offers?
Absolutely. So Unabated is a website that I created with Rufus Peabody, who...
Two very smart guys, by the way.
Well, and Rufus is a world above everyone else I know. He's just amazing. And we decided there needed to be a site that kind of preached the truth of what sports betting is, and also provided tools that nobody else has. Before Rufus came along and our site came along, you could find what a half point was worth in the NFL pretty regularly. But what about the WNBA? What about college basketball? How much is a half point worth? Things that people hadn't put out there yet. So we created the data science to find that stuff out. And we've created tools and resources for sports bettors, all centered around a real-time odds screen. So you can see the real-time odds at dozens of books, both in the U.S. as well as in faraway places. And you can then have tools to see how you can leverage that information. We have a player props odds screen. So everyone's used to seeing an odds screen where all the sports books. What about the player props? Wouldn't you like to see all the player props for, some random player that's out there and see what the line is all across the world? You can do that with our site.
I want to go back to the previous thing with this football season, Jack, because you look at the college football season this year. We had Bud Elliott in yesterday, and we discussed the impact of the 12-team playoff. And quite frankly, the impact of the 12-team playoff is going to be seen as well for us bettors in a big way. And now there's even some markets out there right now, including books that have the will they make the playoff, yes or no odds out there, where I think there's some things that are a little bit off, because not only is it a first time for us, the bettors, it's the first time for the people behind the counter trying to price a lot of these things. And I think this year more so than any, there's going to be some opportunities where us, the bettor, might be able to pick off some numbers that we may never get again because the bookmakers are so good and will be used to it by next year.
I'll let you in on a little secret.
Yeah.
Rufus is so excited about this 12-team playoff, and we're working on some things that we haven't unveiled yet, kind of inside Rufus's brain on the 12-team playoff. What is going to – those markets are going to evolve through the year, Jeff. It's going to be will they, won't they, all season long. And we haven't seen that in college football. They always just basically have, will they make that 4-team playoff? Will they be the national champion? Those markets didn't move all that much last year. This market, this 12-team market, is going to jump all around. I think the media is going to get it wrong. There's going to be some narratives out there about the 12-team playoffs that are going to bear out not to be true. And, the media narratives end up influencing the market because they get in bettors' heads, and the bettors trail those narratives. And as a result, you sometimes have inefficient markets. We're really looking forward to college football. Will they, won't they markets.
Well, and we talk, narratives are a very important thing with this, at least at first. Just looking like right now, I think there's some non-Power 4 teams, because, of course, one non-Power 4 champion has to get in. Boise State is the short shot right now in a lot of books. And I saw one book had up to 5-1, which seemed a little bit steep. Memphis plus 650. Liberty after last year was plus 450. That's a narrative thing.
Absolutely.
If Liberty goes 11-1, they're not getting in the playoff because they got smoked by Oregon last year in the Fiesta Bowl. So I think they're, like you just said, and I'm excited to see what you and Rufus have cobbled up for this college football 12-team playoff. But narratives, I think, are going to play a much bigger role in, like you said, the market. And you know what? I think with that non-Power 4 bid, I think it is going to play a little bit of a role in the committee's decision making.
I think so too. Rufus does this Massey Peabody ratings.
Yeah.
The college ratings are super strong. We actually went through a little internal debate last year whether we even wanted to put them up because they were too good.
Right.
So this year we said, well, how do we quantify those ratings? Because some people look at power ratings and they just go, okay, well, who's the top team? Who's the bottom team? So that's what we're developing. We're developing a way to quantify these Massey Peabody ratings, turn them into probabilities. Stay tuned. I probably have already said too much. The developers are probably like, no, Jack, don't say that. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting.
We love it. One of the big discussions yesterday at Bet Bash was the sports bet tax in 4 states, in particular, Illinois, New York, Pennsylvania, and Vermont. Can you give your thoughts on that? The
DraftKings winner's tax, I like to call it. Yeah, my main thing here, and I talked to Jeff for a while last night about this, I just don't know why, right? Everyone's familiar with what it is. It's going to be this surcharge that they put on winning in those 4 states due to high state GGR tax, gross gaming revenue tax that the operators have to pay. And it's one of those things where there's so many other ways to do it that the bettor would never know. Just make the line when it should be minus 110, make it minus 113. The bettor's not price sensitive. But when you put at the bottom of your bill, when you check out somewhere and they give you a surcharge on something that really had no effect on you, and that just grinds your gears, right? And that's what DraftKings is doing here. They're showing the recreational bettor that, look, we're gonna just take a little bit more off the top, and it really grinds their gears, and it's getting so much blowback. And I just have to wonder, why did they do this? Why did they do it this way? These are not dumb people, Look, I exist on Twitter, and Twitter is a world of experts, and everybody else is stupid, right? And DraftKings isn't stupid. Why did they do it this way? There's something more to this story that we don't know yet, and hopefully that comes out. And maybe with all this blowback, maybe they reconsider. It goes into effect in January, so it's not like it's next week.
Right. They
still have time to kind of think this over. They still have time to see what the rest of the industry is going to do. If the rest of the industry matches it, well, too bad, because then it'll just become commonplace. And then that threshold, their threshold is any state with a higher than 20% tax rate, it'll start to go down. Look, no one's ever going to get as low as Nevada's GGR tax, but a lot of states are in that 10 to 20% range, and there'll be some justification down the line of, let's do it in Indiana, let's do it in Ohio, and then it just spreads around.
Well, and that's the thing, you brought it up at the beginning, where most bettors will see, they'll just bring up FanDuel because they're in all those states that you mentioned, and they're obviously a big brand, where, all right, if FanDuel, let's say they just had their bases at minus 112 at those states, 99% of bettors are not going to even notice for the most part. I know we would like that number to be a little lower than that, but that's just the reality of it. And I think you're 100% right. There's something else here that that hasn't come out yet. And if it does come out on why they're doing it this way, I would imagine they'll take a little more blowback at that point. If there's a reason that, especially if it's a salvageable reason, that they could not do it the way they're doing it.
Yeah. So do you think that if we were to go out here to the beautiful sports book here at South Point, and we were to tell people, hey, listen, I know you're betting this game today, but if you win, I'm going to take like $2.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy unless if they got to meet Jimmy Vaccaro with the $2.
Right.
I mean, that might be the only way to salvage that. But no, it's just not, like, no way. I mean, that's the $2 is my tip money. I mean,
right. Well, that's true.
Exactly.
That is true. A lot of these guys will tip the clerk, and yeah. But I don't know. It just, if I was a recreational bettor, I would be playing somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now I'm a sharp bettor, and if I was in one of those states, I'm not going to play DraftKings. I'll find a way to bet in Indiana or New Jersey, across the border, New Hampshire. Like, that's the other thing about the states they have. Most of those are states where people can get to another state without that surcharge. So I know somebody had said, this will be good for DraftKings because the sharp bettors won't bet with them anymore, and that's a good thing for DraftKings. Well, no, the sharp bettors, if you close the door on a sharp bettor, we're coming in through the window. We find a way.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, New Jersey to the east, Ohio to the west, West Virginia also bordering, all three of those, easy. Indiana, of course, Iowa as well, bordering Illinois, New York and Vermont. I mean, New York has all those states that we just mentioned, Connecticut, New Jersey, even though Connecticut has some funky things going on as well. But
yeah, you can't deduct as a bettor, you can't deduct your losses from your winnings at the end of the year for your taxes in Connecticut. And that trips a lot of people up because Connecticut's a fairly wealthy state and people are probably betting a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then they realize that this high tax bill, but we don't need to talk taxes.
Yeah, no, we've already talked enough on the taxes here. Captain Jack Andrews with us right now, of course, Unabated Sports, unabated.com. Him and Rufus created an incredible service out there for bettors. Jack, I just want to go because the NFL preseason, yes, I know it started last week, but according to how the game ended, all the bets were voided anyway. So tonight's the real first day of the preseason, and we were talking about this a little bit before the show. Just for someone that's just itching to get in on the preseason, what advice do you have? Because there's going to be a lot of names, a lot of bodies that a lot of people don't know playing in these games these first 3 weeks.
Jeff, I like to tell people that the NFL preseason is not the NFL. And they go, no, it is. It is. No, it's not. It's played by different players. It's played under different rules. Like we were talking, this year they're not doing the chain gang. They're trying this laser pointer thing or whatever it is. We know the referees are told, okay, we're going to enforce this in the preseason so that the players get used to it, and they're going to overcall some things on the field. The third thing is they're not playing for the same incentive. Teams are not going to try to tie the game up late. They can't go to overtime. They don't want to go to overtime. So they're going to go for 2, or maybe they just want to try out their 2-point conversion package and see how that goes. Maybe they want to try something from deep in the playbook in the preseason to see if it sticks. This is not the same incentive. The 3 is not worth the same as the 3 in the regular season. The 7 is not. The 1 and the 2 are worth more in the preseason. It's a different game. It's like saying the WNBA versus the NBA. It's a different game.
So looking at this one game, Panthers, Patriots, big move here on the Patriots. I think they opened -1.5. Now they are -6.5.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, that's not the same going through all those numbers as it would in a regular season game. And, I mean, we've seen a lot of blowouts, right? It's a lot about motivation and which team actually is playing for something.
Right. And there's going to be teams that, for whatever reason, are doing something that the other team is not going to match. We're going to play the starters the whole first half, which isn't likely in the first week of the preseason. Or the other team says, we're just going to play one drive. Jeff, you were pointing out, like, there are some situations where a quarterback can't risk the second-string quarterback getting an injury
I
because
think the Chargers are going to be that way, yeah.
So they have to be extra careful, extra conservative, which Jim Harbaugh, extra conservative, that should be a fun dynamic.
Run the ball 40 times, right?
Right. So you're right, Alex. The line moves aren't the same line moves as the regular season. We would never see that in the regular season without a quarterback injury.
Right.
So what is the dynamic that's moving that line? To be honest with you, I don't do a whole lot with NFL preseason because it doesn't interest me. But there's got to be something else there that's the dynamic and why those numbers are not the points of resistance that you would normally have in the regular season.
So we talk about key numbers, and Alex, you brought this up to me yesterday on the NFL panel yesterday at Bet Bash. Just the possibility with these new kickoff rules, which are the same that the UFL, XFL have had, where you have the kicker all on their own island. The teams are lined up 10 yards apart from each other. The touchbacks go to different spots depending on how the ball is kicked through at this point. It's pretty convoluted if you haven't seen it before. But one of the points that was made at the NFL panel yesterday that, hey, maybe these 3 and 7s are not going to be as important moving forward. Because of these oddities with the new kickoff rule, maybe you're going to see teams go for 2 more often. I'm just curious on your thoughts on that, because when I heard that, it was pretty interesting because I hadn't really thought about that yet.
So this is where I lean to Rufus, because Rufus can think this through at a level that you and I cannot comprehend. Right. But we've seen this every time there's a fairly major rule change, and I would say this isn't the most major rule change in the last 20 years, but it's a medium.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be an impact somewhere. And if you can beat the market to the impact, it is worth a whole lot because it's easy to get down as much money as you want on the NFL on sides and totals because it's a market that sports books love to take action in.
Very interesting.
Well, one other thing I want to bring up with you, because you did a video on this and we actually discussed it before the show, because watching the video back, you had to remind me it was only a few weeks ago that you did the video, and it's like made an impact with me. The possibility of obviously not here in Nevada, but in other states, sweepstakes betting.
Yeah.
Almost, which kind of feels like a new sort of, for lack of a better word, loophole around
right?
some of these states. Yeah. That actually is a pretty interesting way to go about things for the books that are going to try to take that on.
So this is very interesting, Jeff. And just to brief everyone in case they might not understand, so sweepstakes betting it's called that because it has a no purchase necessary component. Remember, we used to see the Monopoly game at McDonald's, and it would say no purchase necessary. Or you could go into McDonald's and buy a Big Mac and you get 2 pieces. Well, that's kind of what they're doing here, is if you send these sweepstakes sports books money, they give you something that's totally worthless. They give you these fake coins that you can wager with, but they're always going to be worth nothing. Plus, they also give you a little bit of a bonus with these this fake cash that can be converted when redeemed back to real money. So that's like it has two sports books side by side. And you can also enter by mailing them a postcard and saying, I would like free coins in cash. And they have to give you that. And different sports books will have different amounts that they give you. But the point is, it's a loophole that they're going to use to offer sports betting in states, i.e. California is the big one, that do not currently have sports betting, legal sports betting. And it's not illegal. It's not legal, but it's not illegal. And you'd say, well, why aren't the states, they're just going to shut it down? California's got bigger things to worry about. And also the loophole is fairly solid. Like as long as they offer all those components that line up with the sweepstakes, which are no purchase necessary, and that the odds have to be clearly stated, which in a sports book, the odds are clearly
Always,
stated.
yeah.
Then they get this loophole, and it's growing fast. And there's some regulated sports books in other states that have surrendered their license to go this method because now they can go to all states. They don't have to go state by state with all the regulatory hurdles and compliance hurdles. This gets them faster. Now, look, I tell people in the video that I made on YouTube, you can go to YouTube/unabated and you'll see our videos out there. I tell people, you got to be careful because this is unregulated. There's not the guarantee that you're going to be dealing with a reputable company. However, there are companies that have come up and you can go based on public opinion that things have been reputable. People get paid quickly. The payment processors that process the regulated books, they're on board with the loophole and they're allowing people to use PayPal and Venmo to deposit on these sweepstakes books. So do your research. Watch my video. I am not trying to direct you to any one book. I don't take affiliation from any sports book. And do the research for yourself and decide, hey, this might be right for me.
Well, it's interesting because with California, like DFS is sort of the same sort of way. Like the prize picks of the world, the underdogs are kind of the same sort of way where it's not illegal, but it's not fully on board as well. But like you said, California's got a lot of things going on. They're not it's down the chain of events there with stuff like this.
Right, absolutely. The states that have gone after them have found out in court that there's a pretty strong loophole. And what a state has to do now is they have to make all gambling illegal, except explicitly what we say is legal. This is what Michigan did, and this is what a lot of states are going to copy, is you make all gambling illegal, but then say this specific form of gambling done this way through this process is now legal. And so Michigan has iCasino, they have sports books, they have online sports betting. But they also have this rule that is going to keep out the sweepstakes, and other states are going to catch on and start to do the same thing. But the wheels move slowly with this stuff,
Of course,
as you guys know.
Yes,
and so you probably got a couple years before that starts to be the way of the land.
Definitely going to check out that video on YouTube/unabated. What do you have going on today or the rest of the week for Bet Bash?
Oh, it's drinking from the fire hose. That's what I have going on. It's just Spanky runs Bet Bash, and it's just a lot of information, a lot of guys that want to talk about esoteric topics with you, and then there's open bars, and that's how that goes. So yeah,
hydration is key.
Absolutely,
hydration is key this week for sure. Before we let you go, just tell everyone if they listen to you, want to subscribe to Unabated, what's the easiest way to go about that?
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity to come in here and plug my site. We're currently running an NFL special. You can sign up for our premium tier, which is our top tier of service. It's $599. That gets you everything through the end of the regular season. I know for some bettors that may seem like a lot of money, but honestly, the tools and the resources there, if you're ready to take that next level, if you're ready to kind of go for, I want to try to be sharper, it's a steal. And that'll get you through the rest of the NFL regular season, but that also includes all the other sports that happen this fall. And, all the sports happen in the fall. So they can check that out at unabated.com.
Jack, it's always awesome to have you in. We all covered a lot in 25 minutes. Of course, on the tweets at CapJack2000 as well. Jack, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Before we get out of here today, of course, short episode for us because Gone Racing's coming in a half hour. Alex, you have a few plays for people in baseball today.
I do have a few MLB plays. So strong lean I'll start off with, and that is on the Atlanta Braves. I think this is a buy low spot on the Braves, who have not been great offensively, and that is what's kind of kept me off of this right now, and it is just a lean. But Charlie Morton has been really very good. Expected FIB 3.66. On the other side, Montez 5-8 this season, 5.03 ERA in his 20 starts. His due factor, expected FIB 6.03. Of course, it's just a matter of if the Braves bats are going to get going. And listening, there are a bunch of great things going on at Bet Bash. Heard Roxy Roxborough yesterday give some tips. So look out for Sammy P's Chicken Dinner podcast that'll be coming out soon. One of his tips was everybody always makes and comes up with a bunch of reasons why you should make a bet. What are the reasons why you should not?
Yeah.
And that came to my mind here with the Braves. So moving to a couple that I have already made, though. I really like the Cincinnati Reds today, and I really like the New York Mets. Looking at the New York Mets team total over, it is a little bit pricey here, though. Mets over 5.5, minus 140. So I like this game over in general in Colorado. Think it's pretty good at 10. Looking at which team I think that will fall on more is, of course, the New York Mets, who are the 8th best in slugging percentage, have the 8th most runs. Flip side, I do like a game under, and that is the Reds and the Marlins. I think that leans more on Miami here with this pitching matchup. So Hunter Green, I mean, he has been their most reliable pitcher for Cincinnati. So however you want to play that. If you want to lay the price on the money line for the Reds, minus 170, maybe take a little shot at the run line here at minus 110. That's how I decided to do it. Or even the Marlins team total under, which is 3.5, minus 155.
Hunter Green has allowed 1 run since July began. And I know people are looking for long shot Cy Youngs. Him and Dylan Cease, they're coming up the board. Those two guys right now. If you got those 100-to-1s on Green, job well done. If you got those 50-to-1 on Cease, which were out there until the no-hitter, job well done on those two. You also, Alex, we had the discussion before the show. Chris and company did a good job of juicing those numbers, going with the bets that you did instead of the team totals here today on both the Mets team total over and the Marlins team total under.
They did, really trying to just find the best value and was trying to go around laying that big price on the money line. So going against the Marlins, but it is fairly close anyway. So that's why I say whichever way you think is the best value and the way you want to play it.
Just bringing this up real quick, preseason, as we mentioned, New England has moved from 1.5 to 6.5 today against Carolina, 34.5. Nothing for either of us on that game because of just the nature of the move. And more times than not in these preseason games, people know things, know things, and that's why it's moved. And then the Giants are 3.5 against Detroit, 34 on that one. No play on that for you as well, correct?
No play on that.
Yeah. Nothing for me on either of these games. It's few and far between. I know, like we've mentioned, a lot of sharp bettors do like hopping in, but nothing for us here, at least today, on those preseason games. Before we get out of here today, Gone Racing's coming your way in a half hour, but 2.5 hours from now, the final day of the Denny Nagel residency with Frank Nicotero and Ryan McCormick on Punchlines FN, all social media platforms for Frank and company now. Ryan, other than Denny, what else do we have on the show today?
Yeah, so showtime at noon. Denny Nagel, like Jeff said, it is his final show of the week, but he's bringing a friend, Josh Charles, onto the show. Actor, you've probably seen him in The Good Wife, where he won a couple Emmys. Four Brothers. He was in Sports Night, so get to talk a little bit about the acting world and then his point of view on sports. So that kind of stuff. And then post with Punchlines, we'll have our Olympic chunk like normal. And being that it is a Thursday, we will have a Fungo trivia, even though Jeff will not be joining us. So
that's hey, look, Denny got both Alex and I this week, and we have no issue with that.
As well as Matt too.
Yeah. When you have the former Major League World Champion, we're okay to be bummed. We're good. We'll both see you next week on the show, of course, and of course you'll see Ryan and Frank and Denny and Josh Charles at noon right here. Again, Punchlines FN on YouTube is where you watch the show, as always. Alex, we'll be back tomorrow.
Back tomorrow. 9
Sammy
a.m.
P. in studio tomorrow, and he'll be awake, which will be good. We'll talk with Sammy P. He has some bets for the football season ahead.
Yes.
To discuss with us tomorrow at 9:30. Alex, let's go 3-0 today.
3-0.
Let's go 3-0 today. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again tomorrow. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.